When it comes to living a healthy life, there's an absolute ridiculous amount of information out there. The fads are endless, and the latest products to improve this, that, and the other thing never seem to come to an end. And all for what? Now, I'm by no means a medical doctor, but in today's video, I want to share some of my personal experiences on my health journey and some things that I have found beneficial along the way. Now, it's strange, isn't it? We have access to more cutting-edge science than at any point in history. We're synthesizing products at a rate more rampant than at any time in history. But yet, we're more sick as a species than ever before. So what gives? Although technologically speaking, we're thriving, I suppose you could say, amidst all this is a cocktail for anxiety, depression, obesity, diabetes, and other modern-day health diseases is brewing in the background. Now, I think one of the reasons for this is our evolutionary biology didn't evolve around these technologies. It's the overconsumption and mindless interaction we have with this that propagates such illnesses. Now, it's not to say that technology is all bad. I'm not saying avoid it or don't use it. My opinions are actually quite the contrary. I would encourage you to utilize it, but do so with the utility of the technology in mind and not just the mindless interaction we seem to have with it. This leads me to my first point, which is to create daily parameters for yourself. Now, these daily parameters are going to look different from individual to individual based on your lifestyle, your priorities, and ultimately what it is that you're working towards. Daily parameters quite simply means creating daily disciplines that we act on each day. Now, you can view these disciplines more or less as a guideline and not a strict rule book that you have to live by every second of your life. The intent here is to have a baseline that we can come back to. So we're not constantly going into that reactionary state and we're just kind of going from one thing to the next. A personal example of this at play is a discipline I do my best to abide by, which is my relationship with social media. This is a trap that myself and I see a lot of people fall into, and that is just the mindless scrolling that we can go through on the social media of your choice. So what I have laid out for myself is 3 daily check-ins that I can utilize throughout the course of a day. What this means is I can open one social media application, so that could be Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. I can only pick one of them, and out of the course of the day, I only get 3 total check-ins. So I typically like to space this out. I would do, say, a check-in in the morning, afternoon, or evening. Or maybe I'll bypass the morning altogether and kind of spread it out more into the afternoon and evening. The intention here is just to have a guideline and a number in mind of something that I try to abide by. Now, that's not to say that every day is perfect and I don't go over, because I can fall into the same trap as everyone else. But it at least gives me a framework in my mind that I can try to stay consistent with. And by utilizing this framework and then building up consistency, I can then start to form a relationship or a habit around the utilization of those apps. Now, this is just an example. It's not to say that this is the only one or that this is even the one for you. I have other ones around my morning wake-up time, as well as how much time I like to spend reading each day. To give you another quick example, I try to read on average between 15 and 30 minutes a day. This is something that is very easily attainable as long as I hold myself disciplined to that. But it's also a long enough period of time that if I were to read those 15 or 30 minutes a day, I'm reading anywhere between 1.5 and 3 hours roughly in a week. And that is far more than I would have done if I didn't have that daily parameter in place. Remember, this is to create a mean for yourself or have a plan to go about the day. If you don't create a plan for yourself, then you can quickly become a part of someone else's, or worse yet, your own impulses. Now, building these parameters and having some form of structure, I believe, is an important thing. But I also think it's not the only thing. For every type of structure or order that we put into our life, there has to be some type of counterbalance to it. For what is life if we're always living by the rule book and these kind of strict guidelines that we just go about in a robotic fashion? I think one of the most imperative things to living a healthy life is to simply be happy. Now that's obviously a lot easier said than done. We can't just flick a switch and go from being in a down mood to a happy mood. If we did, I'm sure the world would be a very different place. But just like we build a framework for these daily disciplines that we can go by, we can also create a framework for our mind. And something that I like to keep in mind is something that seems insurmountable to pass by today probably won't be all that significant in a year's time. On the other hand, what we create, build, and contribute to something a lot bigger than ourselves, and we put in those daily outputs each day towards, I think is almost incomprehensible of what can come of it in a 5 or 10-year span. It's in my opinion anyway that happiness ultimately lies in the wake of the perceiver. How we interpret events, how we overcome obstacles and resistance is ultimately how we're going to receive happiness within ourselves. And it's by working through hardships and taking things seriously and then not so seriously and just enjoying the interplay of life that I think our inner happiness level can actually begin to upgrade. When our perception changes, we create the pathway for new realities to ultimately come into our life. So if you're in a circumstance or a place in your life that you're unhappy with, think of all those things in between where you are now and what happiness actually looks like as the path, as the process to getting you to where you want to be. And it's finding fulfillment within that process that I think is going to be the initial spark or the Kickstarter to what is going to create happiness within you. I think it's far too easy nowadays to get momentary happiness from social media, food, porn, video games, and the list goes on. It's in my opinion that happiness and fulfillment are tightly coupled. So I posit a question to you. What are you engaging with on a day-to-day basis that is bringing you fulfillment? There's no need to settle for cheap happiness, for that is the very thing that is likely holding you back. So the keys to living a healthy life typically don't come from the outside. It actually starts more from within. It's from our daily habits and our actions, as well as our own interpretation of what's happening in our environment that is ultimately going to shape not only our happiness, but ultimately our health. The health industry, unfortunately, has become quite a fad, with the latest buzzwords coming from the top down, with every biohacker and suburban mom seem to be using the same verbiage. When it comes to being healthy, there really is no secret sauce. There is the fundamentals that we're all aware of around getting outside, getting exposed to sunlight, having a regular sleep routine, eating the right foods, exercising, and the list goes on. But ultimately, the key to living a healthy life starts with you. So it's time to stop searching and start executing. If you made it this far in the video, then thank you for watching this video all the way through. I hope you did find some value in it. In these videos, I tried to provide a different outlook or perspective that might be a little bit different than what most people are used to. Things in life usually aren't as black and white or as logical as we want them to be. I think a lot of the answers that we're looking for starts with us. So that's why in these videos, I do try to give you some actionable items to start with, but also try to posit questions that might just ruminate or give you a different perspective on this world that we live in. If you like videos like this, then don't be afraid to subscribe to the channel as well as give it a thumbs up, as that really helps the YouTube algorithm. I do tend to post videos like this once every week, once every couple weeks. I'm going to aim to try to be more consistent with them. I do put a lot of work into them, so if you feel that this is something that resonated or there's someone in your circle who could benefit from information like this, then also share this as well, as that just helps to get the message out there. Until next time, make sure that you are prioritizing and then you are optimizing for you. Take care until then. Peace.